Good morning, visionaries. This is Kirk, and this is the assignment video, and today's distinctions are contribution, inspiration, and listening. So let's start with contribution. Contribution is the space of being value-oriented. How can I serve? What can I give to the world? In giving, I receive. It is a commitment to be a fountain, not a drain, a supernova, not a black hole, a creator, not a consumer. It's the space of the visionary program. Visionary program is designed to bring people who are journey oriented, like level 3, like I'm free and there's no place to get to, and the journey is the path, right? The path is the goal, right? I'm free in my release of worldly attachments, and I'm free in not needing anything from anyone. Level 3 is the space of waking up, right? And then level 4 is the space of, oh, wow, I'm in peace, I'm in love, I have joy, I have light, I have connection. Let me be the source of that for the world. Let me overflow that love and that light and that connection and that peace and joy into the world. And I get what I need. I already have everything I need, so I get rewarded, and my soul gets lit up and my heart gets filled up in the giving of these gifts. And in fact, as I give these gifts, I have these gifts in myself. So, in my life, I noticed first half of my life or so, I've noticed that light, love, and connection were missing, right? So my value to the world, my gift to the world is light, love, and connection. And oh, by the way, my gift to myself is light, love, and connection. And they're one and the same. So as I have opportunities to be the source of light, love, and connection in the world, I also experience light, love, and connection in the world, right? Before then, I was waiting for conditions to be met, or people to show up a particular way, or for me to accomplish something, or for something magical to happen in order for me to experience light, love, and connection. And now I have no concern for that whatsoever. Where I show up, I bring light, love, and connection with me, right? And that's my gift to the world. In the space of contribution is also receiving, right? So one of the ways you can be a contribution in the world is to receive other people's contribution and have contribution be alive over there where they are, right? So contribution and receiving are the same. Now the pitfall in level 4 is to give in order to get, right? So in the moment you give with an expectation, like, hey, I've been loving you so much, where's the love? Hey, I'm giving you money, where's my money? Hey, or where's my reward? Or hey, I give you my attention, when are you going to give me your attention, right? So all that is not level 4. It's not the value-oriented state. It's not the space of contribution. That is level 2, giving to get. The blueprint in the world says I must get, and I must consume, and I must have, and I must win, and I must compete. That's level 2, right? Goal-oriented. So so level 2 and level 4 can look the same, right? A smart level 2 person will give in order to get, right? There's the most successful networking group in the world is BNI, Business Network International, and their motto literally is givers get. And there's literally all these people giving in order to get, right? So it's actually not quite it. It's maybe a high level 2, at least they're giving, right? But as soon as you give in order to get, the in order to breaks the magic of contribution, right? So one of the ways to contribute is simply receive. Right, so how you could contribute in this space right here as you're being with this space and this video and these distinctions, you could receive fully the work of the visionary program, and in so you would be being a contribution to me and the world, right? Another way to be a contribution is simply be yourself. Simply be yourself. Like the whole world is wearing a mask, literally and figuratively, right? And so we're all pretending to be something that we're not. We're pretending to be what we think we should, right? Hiding what we think we are. All of that is an illusion, and with the true us is love. So one of the ways you could be a huge contribution in the world is to let go of the mask, right? Let go of the egoic mask. That's the protection between you and the world. Goodness, please don't let the world see who I think I am, right? So that's the ego. It's both ego, right? Both the ego is the mask out front, and the ego is the illusion of I'm broken and I'm unworthy and I must perform in order to get love, or I must wear the mask in order to get love, right? So one of the ways you can be a contribution in the world is be true to yourself, be love, be your full self, right? And in so doing, you give other people permission to be the same. It's not our light that terrifies us. It's not our darkness that terrifies us. It's not our smallness that terrifies us. It's our light and it's our infiniteness that terrifies us, right? So one of the ways you could be a contribution at a very high level in the world is simply be yourself, which is love. Contribution is a way of being. Like for many years, I literally created for myself. I was going into a very dark tunnel. Beginning of 2016, my whole world was turned upside down, geographically, romantically, financially, just everything. Right, leaving the city that I love, and I really had built a community. It's where I got to really experience myself as a musician, and I really lived that space and was in that world for years. And I gave all that up suddenly, like something happened and boom, right? And I was terrified. I was really scared. I couldn't see how I was gonna make it through what I was terrified about, like losing everything and starting all over again. It just seemed like everything had come to an end. So I created for myself like who I am as a contribution. And this is before I met John. Like I wasn't looking at the world through the 5 levels of consciousness, right? I was looking at the world through another training that I've experienced and been the source of. And so what I created is the possibility of myself of literally being a contribution. And it was not a slogan, it was not a bumper sticker I stuck on my forehead. It was literally, I gave everything I am to who I am as a contribution. And I promised myself that I would be a contribution and that my ability to contribute would be the source of my success and the source of my coming back into the light again, right? And so it was, and so it is. And so the reason I created being a contribution, and the reason it was so important to me, the reason I gave my all to it, right, was I could feel the darkness. I could feel the darkness descending back. I could feel the yester me of cold, dark, hard, manipulative, dishonest, a liar, a cheater, and a stealer, right? Somebody who takes from the world and takes from people. That is who I once was, right? And I could feel it coming back in my fear and anxiety and my experience of weakness. And so I knew the answer. Well, I don't know what I knew, but I created that the answer for myself was to create a bigger problem for myself, which is instead of going dark and resorting back to old fearful habits, I then actually made a bigger problem for myself, which is how do I be a contribution to the world? And I mean like at the highest level and at the deepest level. Like how do I be the biggest, baddest contribution I could possibly imagine and have that be the source of my success instead of my ability to take from people and use people and all that, right? So I gave everything that I was to that commitment to who I am as a contribution, and I lived my life from that space. Really until I met John and started like really letting in this whole conversation of allowing the level 5 and operating from a higher place, but that's another conversation for another time. Right now we're talking about contribution. So contribution in this case is a way of being. Like I literally related to myself as the distinction contribution, like that's literally who and what I am, and that's what I created and that's what I lived, and so it was. And I promised myself that my ability to contribute would be the source of my success. So instead of going into even spiraling down and further into a darkness and figure out how I was going to manipulate the world and control the world and steal from the world, I actually got to work on how can I up my ability to be a contribution to the world, right? And then I met John, and you know the rest of the story. So I'm going to leave it there. There's a lot more we could say about contribution. You guys were really beautiful and amazing last night in what you were creating with all of these distinctions. So feel free to use what I've created as a foundation, as a starting point, and let it rip. Open up your heart, still your mind. Do not be constrained by my limited perception of these distinctions. Let it rip, let it rip, let it rip, let it rip. All right, inspiration. So inspiration for me is this idea of being alive from the inside out, like fully alive, fully alive, fully alive, needing nothing from the outside to create my aliveness. Needing nothing from the outside world, needing nothing from other people to experience being happy and fully alive and be the source of inspiration where I am. See, I I had an upcoming discovery call on my calendar, and it was a business consultant who wanted to develop himself in the world of selling, right? And I wrote a book called Contribution Selling, and it was how to sell from this space of contribution, right? By the way, I think I still to this day think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever conceived of. And so anyway, I remember feeling anxiety because I hadn't looked at this book or been in that world for half a minute, and like, oh, business consultant, like this dude's going to be really expecting something amazing. Like, oh my gosh, right? So I had a concern about my ability to perform, right? And so like, what do? Well, I'll go back and read the book, and I read the book, and I was like, and I've done some videos on contribution selling. I've led some workshops which were videoed, and I have that. And so I literally watched myself and read myself standing for the possibility of being a contribution in the world, and the possibility of people doing business inside of contribution rather than taking and competing, right? And I was inspired, like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Like it was like watching someone else perform and reading someone else's book. It's like, oh my gosh, somebody's got to do something with this. Like, this is amazing. This is really good stuff. This is a real answer to the world. This is a way that we can introduce contribution introduce love and transformation into the business world, right? Because contribution selling is all about results, and it's all about love and contribution, and the two are not mutually exclusive. And in these videos in this book, I really saw the possibility of contribution selling, like people in the business world operating from contribution. It's like I was really moved, right? And then when I noticed when we had this call together, like I was so full of life and so full of inspiration. Like he was just like a big fat yes, like yes, let's do this. I want whatever you're having, right? And what I was having was love and contribution, right? So, and so I noticed a direct link between being inspired and performance. So performance in my world is not a dirty word in any way whatsoever. I'm not talking about performing in a fake way. I'm talking about performance. I'm talking about being world class. I'm talking about being the change I wish to see, making a difference with people, literally being able to walk people home in love reliably, like every time, right? Have every conversation go the way of light, go the way of love. Every time I interact with an ego that's taking swings at me and making points and interrupting and dominating or avoiding dominating, like every time I interact with that, my commitment is to perform. What does that mean? That means bring the conversation to love. Have someone see that everything that is within them and who they are is love, and they don't need to fight and compete and make a point and be right. Like all that is just the language of the ego, which is no longer necessary because who and what we are is love. Right? So I noticed when I was filled with light and love from the inside out, performance was like really a foregone conclusion. And performance, inspiration is a big part of my formula for success, my formula for performance, my strategy to win the game of love, light, and connection in the visionary program and in my coaching conversations and Awaken Life Live and my relationship with Donna and my relationship with John and all the architects and all the visionaries and all of our people at Awaken Life Live. Like me being responsible, the source of inspiration where I am, is a major part of how I do what I do and how I be what I be and how I perform the way I perform, right? So, so I just leave it there, inspiration, okay? Feel free to use that as a foundation and let it rip. Don't use my limited perspective to constrain you, okay? All right, listening. All right, so I had really a lot of fun leading the listening section last night. So listening, first thing you get is you don't listen. Now, all that noise in your head when I say you don't listen is literally what I'm pointing to. Okay, yes, I do. Okay, well, you didn't actually hear me then. You're in an argument with yourself about what I said, right? If I say you don't listen, you go, yes, I do. You're actually not taking in what I'm saying. You're not listening. You're having a conversation with yourself about what I'm saying. So let's try it again. Okay, all that noise in your head right now is what I'm pointing to, right? That internal dialogue is literally a barrier to you hearing what I'm saying and receiving what I'm standing for, right? So the internal dialogue is a major barrier to listening. Like, and for most people don't actually hear anything that's going on around them. They're instead in a constant dialogue with that little internal voice about what's being said in the world, which is completely distinct from listening. Okay, and that internal dialogue has a particular flavor to it. What's wrong here? Where's the threat? You know, what am I missing that could hurt me, right? Or, you know, it has a flavor of, oh, I'm right. Oh, I totally got this. I totally understand that. Oh, well, this is what he means. Oh, that's what he means. Oh, this fits neatly into this box that I've already heard before. Okay, so none of that is listening in the way that I'm talking about listening, right? All that is a patternistic, egoistic methodology of finding threats in the world to keep you safe. I call that survival listening. So survival listening is the antithesis of what I'm talking about in listening. Survival listening is your whole being, your whole way of listening, your whole way of interacting with the world, in your DNA and in your genetics, and multiple generations, like thousands of generations, right? Human beings are designed to find the problem before the problem finds us, to see the threat before the threat hurts us, right? To see the lion in the bushes and get clear of it before the lion sees us, right? So our whole construct, our whole manifestation, our whole DNA, our whole multi-generational experience is finding the threat before the threat finds us. So guess what? Whatever you look for, you will find. Whatever you look for, you will find. So if you're in the world looking for what's wrong, guess what you're going to see over and over and over and over again, right? Now, we don't even notice it anymore because we just think the world is dangerous. We just think, I mean, I spent the first half of my life, plus some, right, in a space of the world is dangerous, people are crazy, no one's coming, I must be stronger, I must be colder, I must be meaner, I must close my heart more, I must protect myself, I must compete and win, I must outwork people, I must be bigger and righter and stronger and all that stuff. And that's literally how I lived my life. And it wasn't like a conscious decision. It's just like, what else is there? Anything else is foolish and stupid, right? So your experience may not be that extreme, but I guarantee you're not present to the extent at which you don't listen, and you're not present to the extent at which survival listening is ruling your life, keeping you separate from anything and everything beautiful in the world. Right? So if you're arguing in your head about what I'm saying, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Ego has no interest in this conversation about listening. Right? Love can hear an opposing conversation, just totally take it in and find the gold in it. Right? Love can hear something that feels like a threat to the ego and keep listening and keep finding the love and the gold and the value in it. Right? So one aspect of listening is we're literally hardwired to hear what is wrong in every conversation, right? Literally, in every situation and in every person, right? That's the wrong clothes. You voted for the wrong person. You're wearing a mask. You're not wearing a mask. You eat meat. You don't eat meat. Oh, you have masculine energy. Oh, you have feminine energy. Like, it's just one derision, one judgment, one separation after another, after another, after another, and it all comes in what you hear. Okay, so one thing to be response able about is the human experience of survival, right? And if you notice, for most of us, if you just look around, you notice you're completely safe, right? There's no threat to respond to. So you can let your guard down, you can let go of the need to find what's wrong in everything, and you can actually receive other people's communication fully. So a few words about receiving other people's communication fully, right? So it's been scientifically proven that people don't actually listen to all the words in a sentence or a conversation or a paragraph, right? The brain is wired to be efficient, right? Which doesn't parse out every single thing that's going on around it. Instead, it shortcuts. If you say Mary, Mary, Mary had your brain goes to little lamb. And if I say Mary, Mary, Mary had a little goat, you might actually miss it, right? Because you've already decided, you've already heard what I'm saying before I say it, or you're hearing what you're thinking I'm saying regardless of what I'm saying, right? So one of the ways to, phone call came in, sorry about that. One of the ways to be response able for listening is actually listen to the words people are saying, right? Mary, Mary had a little lamb. Mary, Mary, Mary had a little goat. So different number of Marys, different ending, right? So to actually listen to the words that are coming at you instead of, shortcutting it. Instead of allowing your brain to shortcut, you could actually receive every single word. And when you hear the words that are being said, you will also hear the words that are not being said, right? You can hear people talking around what's important. You could hear people talking around what's really true for them. If you hear the words, then you can actually hear the non-words. You can hear the unspoken. You can hear the unsaid. Both are powerful, powerful, powerful. And in fact, in my previous training, we did a lot of work on hearing the unsaid, right? And you actually dial into what people are not saying. It's often very revealing. More than you probably imagine, words are simply a smokescreen to hide what's really going on for people, right? The words people use are part of the mask of, let me present my ideal self so that broken self won't be seen by people and I won't be ostracized and so forth, right? So listen to what's being said, listen to what's not being said, hear the unsaid, hear the said pristinely and with integrity and fully, right? Also, the words are actually just a very small percentage of communication. Tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, all that actually plays a much bigger role in what's being said, right? If I say, I love you, you might feel love. I say, I love you. You might feel disdain, but it's the same words, right? And what was different is the tone and the facial expressions and the movement of my body and the movement of my head, right? So in addition to noticing the words, you might actually tune in to the facial expressions, and you might tune into the hand movements, and you might tune into me leaning forward and leaning backwards, right? All that is actually more important than the actual words that I'm saying and the words that I'm not saying. You might also notice my tone of voice. You might notice the volume goes up and down. You might notice the tempo of my communication. Sometimes I go quickly, sometimes I go slowly, right? It's all I'm communicating. It's all in how I'm communicating. Most people miss all of that, or they receive it unconsciously through the filter of what's wrong here, where's the threat. So you let go of the survival, you tune into what people are saying, you tune into what people are not saying, you notice the tone of voice, the facial expressions, the body movements, the hand movements, the head movements, the forwards, backwards, up, down. You notice the tone, the tempo, the volume, and all that creates a picture of what's being said. Like that's just the first part of 3, right? Just what's being said. The next thing you might tune into is like actually feel into what is my experience. What is my experience right now? Am I anxious? Am I upset? Am I angry? Am I peaceful? Am I in love? Am I in discord in some way, right? If you just actually feel into someone's experience with a little practice, you can actually dial in what people are experiencing, right? So a lot of how I lead at Awaken Life Live and the Visionary Program is I'm actually listening to your experience, and I'm listening to your words and the body language and like all of it. What are you saying and what are you not saying? The choices of your words and the phrases, so the words you dance around, right? So the second movement, the second space of listening is, what is their experience right now? Third space is what are they committed to? What are they trying to accomplish? What are they trying to communicate? Like where are they going? Where are they coming from? What's important to them? If a woman is coming to you and having a hard time articulating and super excited and they point to their child underneath the car, what they're committed to is you helping her get their child out from under the car. It's a big deal, so you can actually notice what people are trying to communicate rather than judging them, in some way, right? Looking for the threat, looking for what's wrong. You can actually tune into like, wow, I wonder what's important to them. I wonder what they're trying to communicate. And then, going backwards, I wonder what their experience is. And then going backwards, wow, what are they saying? What's the body language? What's the tonality? What's the tempo, right? Now, all of that for me anymore are not conscious questions. Like I'm literally, when I listen, I don't always listen, right? I'm a human being. Human beings don't listen. But when I choose to listen, like when I'm leading and coaching and Visionary Program and Awaken Life Live, I'm listening. I'm dialed in. And all those movements are in the background. Like, I just wail. Charlie Parker says, a famous saxophone player from the 50s, was a pioneer of a style of music called bebop, a type of jazz which was very fast and very technical and required a lot of technical skill, right? And he said, yeah, you spend all this time learning how to play your instrument, and you put all that shit down and wail, right? So at this point, I'm wailing, right? But where it came from is these distinctions of listening. And then a little bonus aspect that I've onboarded since being at Earthwaking University is feeling into people's triggers and emotional experience, right? Notice where they're getting triggered. Notice where they're peaceful. Where people are triggered is a really great indication of what they're incomplete about. Where the wound is that has left to be healed. Where the transgression is that's yet to be forgiven. Where the judgment is that's yet to be acknowledged and released. Right? If you notice where people's emotions are, where their triggers are, very highly informative, right? So you notice the words and the specific communication and all the ways that is, body language, tonality, tempo, volume, all that kind of stuff. You notice the experience, you notice the commitment, and then you notice where the emotion is and where the triggers are, right? Just feel into, if you were that dialed into people's communication, right? Just feel into how connected you would be and how powerful you could be in bringing people home to love, or just simply, just being light, love, and connection where you are, right? When you're listening in this way, like everything else is a foregone conclusion. Like I'm very effective in my coaching conversations, and I'm very effective in my leading, but it's in what I'm hearing and it's what I'm listening for. And these are the things that I'm listening for. All right, beautiful. Okay, great work last night, guys. Really, really beautiful. So slight change in the assignment, you're going to, you do your video. I recommend you do it today. Do your video, 3 minutes and 33 seconds, and then go find 2 people who've done their video and give preference to people who do not have coaching on their video. And coaching is a three-step process: acknowledgement, upgrade, and appreciate. Acknowledge is just feeling into something beautiful about another human being, and offering a few words. It's not a 10-minute conversation. It's just, hey, I feel your love. I feel your heart. You're amazing. I love your courage. Your courage gives me courage. Just like an acknowledgement. And then the upgrade is like, give them something real that'll make their video better. Don't mess around with people. People are committed to being world class. They're committed to being the change they wish to see. Give them what they need. Give them a real upgrade that they can make their work better. If their work is not better next week, you did not get your job done in the upgrade, right? And then just appreciate people. Hey, I love you. Thanks for being on the team, right? Just something like that, right? So 3-step process. It's simple, on purpose, and by design. All right, I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. Oh, the group. So the group is really important, right? So you'll find your name in a group. The purpose of the group, I'm gonna say this periodically, right, is you want to be able to connect with other leaders in a short period of time, right? So you're gonna have 30 minutes for the group, so that's 3 or 4 or 5 minutes each, and make sure everybody gets to share something, right? So this week I want you to share, where do you not listen? And you've only got 3 or 4 minutes, right? So share where you don't listen, and make sure everybody gets to share fully, and wrap it up in 30 minutes. Hang up the phone, stop the Zoom. If you want to reconnect and spend an hour with people, by all means do that. But in this exercise, you're learning how to join together with other leaders, get something accomplished, let everybody get something accomplished, and shut it down. Because that's how life often is, right? There's a time constraint, and there's still something to get accomplished. I love you guys. Talk to you soon.